Alrighty, Dominique, it's been a lovely chatting with you off the camera here. I want to go ahead and jump right into our interview. You have an incredible background here, so I'm excited for you to go ahead and introduce yourself. So tell me a little bit about you, your professional experience, and we'll get started.
Okay, thank you. So basically, a little bit about myself is I come from pretty much a banking background. I've been in banking for almost over 10 years, with six of those being in compliance. So the last six is strictly compliance, um, a little bit of data, a little bit of, you know, auditing, reviews, things of that nature. Um, but basically, the one thing that I love about, the banking industry, finance, um, and everything that's going on is basically the growth. It never sits still. It never, um, basically, it's always changing. And I love that environment. I love the fact that you have to continuously learn and grow with the industries as they take their ups and their downs. Currently, right now, I am a compliance and BI consultant, which basically is focused on compliance, audits, reviews, you know, making sure that your I's are dotted, T's are crossed, as well as business intelligence. So I deal with data, I deal with, making sure your revenue is in a good spot. You have, KPIs or metrics or whatever you need to see is saw, right? Which leads us to the sales part. The current position in which I'm in requires me to branch out on my own. I've been in other sales position. I've been a teller. I've been, in consulting where, they bring your clients to you, and you just gotta have to upsell those products. You have to just talk good. With this position that I am currently in at Linear Insights, I have to reach out directly to those individual businesses. And so that requires kind of my feet hitting the ground, you know. Um, in this company, I'm pretty much selling a service, which requires me to look at pain points and problems. And that means that I have to find my clients that fit what I'm selling. So with compliance, with, data and business intelligence, I'm looking for people who fit the that fit that niche. I'm looking for the ones who want to reduce, their cost. I'm looking for ones who aren't quite sure what they need to be putting down. I'm looking for, businesses that have been around for a while, right? But they haven't grown. So that requires a lot of research on my part. And so I do things like look into LinkedIn. There's lead generators, there's referral marketing out there as well. And I go introduce myself and I build relationships. Um, my sell technique is relationship building. I prefer to meet my clients and get to know them, and get to keep them. It's easier to upsell something when they already know you're good at what you do and you've already given them
That's right.
something, right? So it's 50-50% when it comes to new clients, but old ones, you know, they are a lot better at, you know, going with you on the flow and with growth. So I take um, my technique is basically building those relationships, building that partnership. A lot of businesses do well when you partner with them. Not only am I trying to solve a problem for them, but I'm also trying to make sure that they're good going forward. You know, we're in this together. They have someone that they can literally turn around and ask a question no matter what it is. And so I'm a point of contact. You know, I'm an open book. I can be contacted at any time, and I do not mind.
That's amazing,
Um,
Dominique. Yep.
Thank
No,
you.
go ahead. Yeah, I was going to follow up with you because you said, I'm sure you can ramble on about how,
I could.
your experience is amazing, right? I want to go ahead and kind of highlight a few things, right? Especially going back to your experience. You have experience, you mentioned 10 years in banking, right? But that's not only what your experience is. You've done compliance. You've also, and which ties into your most current role, right? You mentioned that
Yes.
linear insights. You're a consultant. That's your sales role where you're seeking clientele. You mentioned the main thing, which is something core when it comes down to this role in sales, is establishing those partnerships, which turn into those relationships that go deeper than just a surface level or transactional event, right? So you mentioned major things that I wanted to kind of stop and highlight because that's something that you have, which can be easily transferred to this role with this client. Now, as far as you selling, right? What exactly are you selling in your current role?
Right now, I'm selling services. So it's basically um, the back end, the messy part. We're trying to get our clients to allow us to improve their workflows or allow us to create, dashboards and um, do audits for them and, taxes and stuff of that nature, right? So we're selling services that they can either use once or that they can use continuously over time.
Amazing. And what is your approach to gaining new clientele?
So my approach to gaining new clientele is always first and foremost, word of mouth referral. So, the ones that we already have that enjoy being with us, working with us, you know, going and talking to them, seeing who they know, having them reach out, and things like that. The second approach that I have is partnerships. So there are CPAs and accountants, lawyers, um, banks, people who would know that you're having a certain problem that I could fix. Those are the ones that, I would reach out to, do a partnership with them. Sometimes it's as simple as, hey, you work with us and we can do this for you. You exchange services. Or sometimes it's even sometimes commission. It just really depends on what my company allows me to do. They pretty much give me a good amount of I don't want to say they let me off the leash a lot, but they give me a good range to negotiate with. So I do partnerships, and sometimes it's even just cold calling, whether it's, a lead generated approach like LinkedIn, where you can go in, you could see all the new businesses that just signed up or this, that, and then you just introduce yourself.
Exactly. That's my favorite way to go about it is LinkedIn. That's the foot in the door
They're good
ultimately.
at
So
it.
that's my best friend. That's awesome. And so you mentioned that you use LinkedIn. So that's something fun to use when you're using, your sales approach. What are some other systems that perhaps you have used in your previous roles? It doesn't have to be for sales necessarily, but just some systems, maybe Google, Outlook. Tell me about some familiar systems.
Okay. So I'm familiar with all of Google's Workplace, Microsoft, and all of their apps. Um, Personally, my favorite apps, yes, I know that sounds weird that I have favorite apps. Um, is I like Trello, which is a product management system. So it's how I kind of keep track of, what's going on, where things are. Um, I like Notion, which is really good for a client database. I can keep things in there. I know OneNote works really well for that as well, where you can record things and keep a database as well of all the clients. Um, so those are my two favorite right now is Trello and Notion.
Awesome.
Let's
Have you
see.
used any sales-based systems before?
I have.
Mhm.
Which one? Mm.
It's okay if you can't remember the name. It doesn't have to be a name, but if
No,
you're
I have
familiar
just
with,
the images. I was like, I
yeah,
have the image of what it looks like, but I don't have the
yeah,
actual product name of that one. It's a
no
CRM.
worries.
It's gonna kill me, and the problem is, it's gonna pop up within like 2 seconds.
Then you stop me when it comes up. No problem. No biggie. Well,
Mhm.
Dominique, I want to go ahead and kind of wrap up here, but what my last question for you is when were you looking to start a new role?
I can start a new role pretty much whenever, as long as I have a 2 weeks notice, so I can give 2 weeks at my current position.
Absolutely. Yeah, we can definitely get that aligned for you, Dominique. Now, I'm going to go ahead and end this recording, but don't hang up on me here. I want to continue chatting with you really quickly.
Okay.
Thank you.